Croatia is one of the most popular tourist destinations in Europe. Nowadays, it is renowned for its stunning coastal towns like Split and Dubrovnik, which was even featured in Game of Thrones, as well as the city whose name always makes Romanians giggle. However, the continental part of Croatia remains largely overlooked despite its beautiful scenery, stunning architecture, and charming atmosphere. There are so many locations worth visiting on that side of the country, so wanna know where to start? Today we will visit the most beautiful city of the north, Varaždin, and explore its history through its tourist attractions and architecture using footage I took when I visited the city a while ago. Now, if you're curious why the clips are filled with bikers wearing Santa costumes, I will explain that later in the video. Hello, Sia, Salut and Bok. I'm Anna, a Transylvanian villager and certified cat lady, here with a new video about another city you have probably never heard of. Varaždin is a beautiful city in northern Croatia, known for its stunning Baroque and Renaissance architecture, as well as its booming IT industry. So it's basically like my city, but with fewer commie blocks. The name comes from the Hungarian word Város, meaning city, which is a super creative name, I must say. Varaždin was the capital of Croatia for a short time before a devastating event wiped out all its hopes, dreams and potential, much like becoming an adult wiped out all of mine. Historically, the city was nicknamed Little Vienna due to its stunning architecture, but as a frequent visitor of Vienna, I can say there aren't enough beggars and hobos in Varaždin to earn that name. I have a special connection with this city for two reasons. Firstly, the music video for my favorite song, Zavela me Ana, was filmed here, and secondly, in my village we believe that whatever you do when the clock strikes midnight on New Year's Eve is exactly what you will do for the entire year. Now, I spent my New Year's Eve in Varaždin eating burek and drinking cheap Croatian beer, so yeah, that's exactly how my entire year is going. Also, this was the first time I saw bikers wearing Santa costumes, which was an awesome sight to behold. And without further ado, let's dissect this topic. In the Middle Ages, a large portion of present-day Croatia was under Hungarian rule as Croatians entered a personal union with the Kingdom of Hungary, mainly due to the succession crisis, which is a part of history Croatians absolutely love talking about. The first written reference of Varaždin dates back to the late 12th century, when the Paprika Rizzler himself, King Bela III, mentioned the nearby thermal springs in a legal document. Later, the town gained new economic and legal privileges from Andrew II of Hungary and became the economic and military hub of northern Croatia. In the early 13th century, a new church and monastery were established in the city by the Knights Hospitaller. Now, here's some Christianity lore for those of you who are godless heathens like me. The Knights Hospitaller were an order of holy warriors who emerged after the First Crusade's victory, and these guys were the original inspiration for the Templars. By the mid-13th century, the religious buildings of Varaždin were taken over by the Franciscans, a Roman Catholic order founded by Saint Francis of Assisi, an Italian saint. These guys take a vow of poverty and cosplay as poor travelers, dedicating themselves to preaching among the impoverished peasants. Hey, I know it sounds irrelevant, but we're talking about Croatian history here, we cannot do that without some Catholic lore. A century later, the Counts of Celje, who were the most influential late medieval noble dynasty in what is known as Slovenia today, they took control of Varaždin fortress. Later, the town's leadership changed several times, and at some point it even fell under the rule of the Croatian noblewoman Beatrice Frankopam. A handful of the city's architectural marvels from that time still exist today, having somehow survived several rough centuries of fires, Ottoman invasions, wars, communism, blah blah blah. So let's take a look at them. The castle dates back to the 12th century, built as a fortress at a junction of roads in the lowlands of the Drava River. It served as the town's defense throughout its rich history, and it passed through the hands of several different owners and was restored and reconstructed multiple times over the centuries. In the 16th century, during the Renaissance, the castle was transformed into an impressive defensive system, which can still be seen in the structure of its defensive walls. This upgrade was necessary because the Ottomans, or as we call them Halloween decorations, had conquered Slavonia, not to be confused with Slovenia. Later, the castle was acquired by the house of Adriatic, an important Hungarian-Croatian noble family that owned a significant portion of the Old Kingdom. The castle also remained under their rulership until 1925. Today, the castle is used as a museum, displaying a bunch of awesome artifacts, which I would have loved to see if my dumbass didn't visit it during a national holiday when everything was closed. And most importantly, you can see this building in Meash's iconic Zavela me Ana music video. Zavela me Ana, ko marihuana, sad je volim više nego prvog dana. Of course, you can't have a Croatian city without a church dedicated to Saint Vitus, a Christian martyr who is considered the patron saint of dancers, actors, and those suffering from epilepsy for some reason. This medieval Roman Catholic church was first mentioned in the mid-15th century, though it is probably much older. Although it is not quite as majestic as the Saint Vitus Cathedral that I showed you in Rijeka, it is important due to an iconic legend tied to it. Legend has it that when the Tatars allied with Suleiman from Crimea and attacked the city in 1603, the church bells randomly began to ring, alerting the good people of Varaždin, or Varazdians, I don't know how to say it, to put on their big boy pants and defend the city. To commemorate this miraculous event, the locals celebrate every year on Midsummer's Day with a bing bang bong of the bells to remind everyone of the city's defense. That's all I can show you from medieval Varaždin. I just found out that you're not subscribed to my channel.
Why?
Subscribe. The early modern era was a rough period for Varaždin. There were numerous fires recorded throughout the city's history, but by far the worst one was in 1582, which was so devastating that the population began to count time as before and after the Great Fire. This led to the destruction of many significant structures, including churches and homes.
That's rough, buddy.
Despite all that, the city continued to grow and its culture expanded. The buildings erected in that era are absolutely stunning and well maintained, so walking around them will make your brain go, wow, what century are we in? The city became especially significant after Ban Ferenc Nadasdy chose Varaždin as his official residence, making it the capital of Croatia. For those of you who don't know, the title Ban was used for local rulers in various states across Central and Southeastern Europe, especially in areas influenced by the Kingdom of Hungary. A few years later, the city lost its capital status due to a major, totally unforeseen, unexpected event, another fucking fire. Seriously, you gotta stop burning down your buildings. Around the same time, the two significant Croatian towns of Gradec and Kaptol merged together to form the new capital of Croatia, Zagreb. Zagreb is an absolutely stunning city, and if you have the time, you should definitely check out some other videos about it on YouTube. Oh, hey, that's me. This absolutely majestic town hall was built in the 16th century, and it is the oldest continually serving town hall in Europe. The building underwent multiple renovations over the centuries, leading to a unique combination of Romanesque, Gothic, Baroque, and Classicist elements. It features a distinctive tower with a clock and moon phase indicator, and its iconic facade includes the stone coat of arms of the city. Fun fact, this coat of arms has been the city's symbol since the 15th century, when it was confirmed and approved by none other than my boy, the fabled troll and most based ruler of Central European history, Matthias Corvinus. That's right folks, the Mary Lord deepens. If you want to know why I love this man so much, drop a comment and I will make a video about it. Today the building is used as a central spot for various cultural events and is beautifully decorated with Christmas lights during the colder days. And if you go there, you might find a cake vending machine right in front of the building. Back in the day, the city was surrounded by moats and defensive walls, which were demolished in the 19th century. One tower, however, was luckily spared and still stands today. It served as the city fortification's northern gate, built in the 16th century, allowing entrance to visitors coming from the direction of Vienna. Today it is known as Lisak's Tower, named after the merchant who owned it in the first half of the 20th century, and this location is significant in Croatian history, as this is where Ban Josip Jelačić gathered with 50,000 of his followers in 1848 to march against the Hungarians, which is an event my Hungarian viewers definitely would enjoy hearing about. In the 17th century, the Jesuits began to muddy the waters of the city. They are another Catholic order known for their game-changing work in education, missions, and charity. They were the main players in the Canary Reformation, helping to reshape and modernize the church. When the Jesuits settled in Varaždin, they first opened the grammar school and later designed the building of the Cathedral of the Assumption of the Virgin Mary, which is one of the most significant early Baroque sacred buildings in northern Croatia. The construction was financed by the prominent Croatian noble family, the House of Drašković, which is why their coat of arms appears on its portal. The church bell and the corner pilasters were later additions that faced some backlash due to their unique and revolutionary nature. What? A bunch of 17th century Catholics didn't like innovation? No way, I would have never guessed. Many elements of the church are stylistically advanced and considered outstanding even by today's standards. Its most beautiful element is the statue of Mary standing above the portal. The Church of St. John the Baptist was built in the 1650s and is dedicated to John the Baptist, the guy who baptized Jesus in the Jordan River. The church was constructed as part of the old Franciscan monastery, which included an infirmary and a pharmacy, which were an integral part of the town's life, because where else could you get your daily dose of leeches and rakia? #healthy life. Today the pharmacy holds art historic value and it features beautiful 18th century fresco painted ceilings. The bell tower stands at 54 meters, making it the tallest bell tower of the city, which is 33 times my height. The Church of St. Florian is a Baroque church dedicated to St. Florian, the patron saint of firefighters. Okay, I won't make fun of it, it's a low-hanging fruit. Its facade even includes a statue of St. Florian holding a bucket of water above a burning building. The beautiful facade with its tower is a later addition. The Holy Trinity Church and the Capuchin Monastery were constructed in the early 18th century, built by, yes, you guessed it, another Catholic order. The Capuchin order was basically a reform movement within the Franciscan order. They were all about getting back to the basics of a simpler and poorer religious life, because over time the Franciscans had started to get a bit more lavish. I know this is getting annoying, there's only one more left and I stopped doing this, I promise. Originally the Capuchins weren't allowed to enter the city because of the old Franciscans were already leeching off alms during the harvest and did not want another order reducing their revenues. They even asked the Pope to ban the Capuchins from the city. After some protests throughout the kingdom and the resolution from the Croatian parliament, the Capuchins were granted permission to open a monastery in Varaždin 2 years later. It was built in a stern and simple style, typical of Capuchin monasteries, so there isn't much more to say about it. This Baroque parish church was built on the foundations of an old Romanesque Gothic church, which was probably burned down during a fire. The people of the city thought, you know what, now that the church burned down, we don't have enough churches in this city anymore, so they erected a new one dedicated to Saint Nicholas, who is the inspiration for the character of Santa Claus, and he is the patron saint of the city.
Is that why the bikers were in Santa costumes?
Shh, we're getting there. This Gothic tower is a unique sight in Croatia, as Baroque churches are much more common around here. It is decorated with a coat of arms and a stone bear, and it used to have a railing for organizing fire watches. Shocking. And see this tree-lined area around the church? Well, this used to be a cemetery until the end of the 18th century. Following the Capuchins, Varaždin welcomed the fourth monastic order, the Ursulines. The Ursulines are a Roman Catholic order of women founded by Angela Merici, the #girl of the Catholic side of medieval Europe, and they were groundbreaking as the first institute dedicated exclusively to educating girls. The Ursulines were invited and assisted by Countess Magdalena Drašković due to the Protestant Catholic conflicts threatening her daughter, who was in an Ursuline convent in modern-day Bratislava. What was she doing there? Well, it's none of my business.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Yes, I have the sense of humor of a 6-year-old. The Ursulines constructed a harmonious church dedicated to the birth of Jesus and soon established the city's first all-girls school. Luckily, churches aren't the only buildings erected in that era. All the rich people living in the city built several palaces all around the city, inside and outside of the city walls. The palace of the French Sermage noble family features a playful Rococo exterior, which basically screams, "Look at me, I'm not like other buildings." It features a harmonious wrought iron balcony and unique facade with geometric medallions and asymmetrical elements. Its large courtyard is preserved in its original form, and it hosts cultural events such as theater performances, concerts, and gastronomic gatherings in the summer. The building houses the gallery of old and contemporary masters of the Varaždin City Museum, showcasing some valuable paintings such as the famous Žitna Madonna. The Zakvardi Palace was constructed for students of the Varaždin Jesuit Gymnasium, founded by Ivan Sultan Zakmardi, who was the pre-register of the Kingdom of Croatia, Slavonia and Dalmatia, meaning that he was in preparation to become responsible for keeping birth, marriage and death records. I think that's what that word means. The palace served as a Jesuit educational institution during its early years. The Keglevich Palace is a Baroque building constructed in the 17th century on the site of a farm outside of the old city walls, which was pretty rare for the time. Yes, I'm finally showing a building that's not in the city center, since you always complain in the comments about me only showing the old town. Build more interesting stuff outside of the center and then I will film them. The palace was originally built as a private residence with a blend of Baroque and Rococo architectural styles, and today it serves as the scientific department of the Croatian Academy of Arts and Sciences in Varaždin. The Adriatic Patačić Palace is a stunning Baroque building constructed in the later half of the 18th century during Maria Theresa's reign. Its design combines Romanesque, Gothic, Baroque and Classicist architectural elements in its L-shaped layout and the richly decorated stone portal. The location was originally intended to be a Capuchin monastery, but that never happened. The Adriatic family later built a palace which served as a representative house. In the mid-19th century, it became the property of the Patačić family and was later sold in an auction for army lodging. Now, this building turned from their property into our property during the Commune era, serving as the Yugoslav National Army House. In the last few decades, it became the property of the Varaždin School of Music, housing concert halls, classrooms, and administrative offices. I have to say, I also would have been a less depressed teenager if my high school was in such a pretty building. The Drašković Palace was built in the 18th century on the Drašković family's estate, and legend has it that the lady of the house, Countess Drašković, also known as Susanna Malatinsky, often organized lavish parties in the palace. Now, rumor has it that when she met the Count, she was not of aristocratic birth, was already married, and worst of all, she was a Protestant. The Count fell madly in love with her, so he pulled some political strings to arrange her divorce, and needless to say, this caused huge drama. Legend has it that she often organized lavish balls, sometimes even masked ones, and the expenses of these parties left the Drašković family in debt. After the Count passed away, Susanna married the Croatian man, Count Franjo Nadošti. So yeah, my girl Susanna must have had some muscular legs from climbing the social ladder so fast. Good for you, Susie. The palace obviously gained more political and social significance after it became the Ban's residence, as the Croatian parliament gathered there. The most iconic element of the building is the gold-plated Drašković family's coat of arms on its stone portal. The Zagreb Capitol Palace is a gem from the second half of the 18th century and is considered as one of the top architectural achievements of its time. It's a single-story palace with a beautifully carved stone doorway and a decorated facade that really stands out. One interesting detail to look for is the God's Eye symbol on the building, which ties back to the Counter-Reformation movement, as Catholics needed to show off how much they did not vibe with Protestants. The Patačić Palace is one of Croatia's most precious examples of Rococo architecture. Back in the day, it was home to the Patačić family and a go-to spot for Varaždin's cultural and social scene. I mean, come on! What better place would be for that? As you stroll by, you will notice a quirky little metal sign of a turtle, which used to be the logo of a grocer's shop that once operated there. It's a cool nod to the palace's history. Above the grand stone portal at the entrance, there's an interesting detail, another God's Eye symbol. The Varaždin County Palace is where all the administrative hustling goes on. The building itself is a two-story structure shaped like a long rectangle with a charming inner courtyard tucked inside. When you walk up to the main entrance, you will notice a stone portal that really gives the palace a grand feel. There's also a nice balcony on the first floor that adds to its character. One of the coolest features of the palace is the coat of arms displayed on it. This isn't just any coat of arms, it was officially designated as the coat of arms of Varaždin County by none other than Empress Maria Theresa. I have a deep fondness of the next location, as I had my first date of the year there, and that place is the Varaždin Cemetery.
Date a goth girl, they said. It will be fun, they said.
The Varaždin cemetery has a park-like design featuring a unique blend of birch trees, flowers, grass and cypresses, creating a serene environment and showcasing park architecture. The cemetery is adorned with various artistic monuments, which is why it is considered as one of the most beautiful cemeteries in Europe. Among its notable monuments is the Angel of Death by Robert Frangish Mihanovic, the artist who created the iconic equestrian sculpture of King Tomislav in Zagreb. All in all, in the early modern era, Varaždin was the seat of many important political figures and nobles, and it was the Croatian administrative center. It could have been the flourishing capital of Croatia, but it isn't due to the devastating fire that destroyed about 80% of the town, causing the administrative institution to move to Zagreb. It's impressive how well they managed to rebuild the city. In my humble opinion, thanks to the buildings erected during this era, Varaždin became the prettiest city in Croatia, and believe me, I know what I'm talking about. I've been to more than 2 cities there. However, this debacle did not completely end the significance of Varaždin, so let's see what happened next. After the Austro-Hungarian monarchy was established in the 19th century, Varaždin became the seat of Varaždin County in the Kingdom of Croatia Slavonia within the Old Empire. By that time, Varaždin had been completely rebuilt and expanded with flourishing crafts and trade and the manufacture of silk and bricks. Things under Austro-Hungarian rule were generally positive if you don't consider the ethnic and linguistic conflicts, cultural erasure, nationalism, troubling political structure, weak central authority, resistance of the ruling elite to political and social reforms, regional inequalities, economic integration issues, class divisions, lack of national cohesion, military weakness, and diplomatic isolation. Despite all this, one thing that we can praise this era for is the development in architecture. As a frequent visitor of the Old Empire, I probably should stop calling it the Old Empire, or I might get myself banned from several countries, including my own. But I became a huge fan of Austro-Hungarian era architecture, which makes this region genuinely beautiful. I think we can confidently say that the most significant event of that era in Varaždin's history was the organization of a professional firefighting squad. So let's see what else they did. The Vatroslav Jagic Promenade is a stunning park popular for its floral displays and green spaces where normies go on dates. The park's creation was initiated by Dr. Wilhelm Müller, a local physician from back in the days when people didn't even know that germs existed. Some sources say that there used to be a moat in its place, and in the mid-20th century the park was redesigned, incorporating landscape and historicist elements. Today it features a variety of trees, including native species like white chestnut and red-leaved beech. There are 2 significant statues in the park, one dedicated to the memory of Dr. Müller and another of Vatroslav Jakic, a Croatian scholar of Slavic studies. There used to be one of Empress Elizabeth of Austria, aka Sisi, but it was removed due to the fall of the Old Empire and a change in political leadership, so it was moved into the county palace. I'm guessing it looks better in spring and summer, as it is designed to blend into the urban fabric with its colorful flower beds and greenery. Even in winter, when everything seems dead and empty, the park still has a really nice atmosphere. Though I like to walk in cemeteries, so my opinion might not be valid here. The 19th century Varaždin synagogue features a historicist design with 2 towers, domes, and other decorative elements. It was initially a place of worship for Varaždin's Jewish community, but then World War II happened. After the war, the building was repurposed for the Croatian Workers' Union and later used as a cinema.
What?
Even worse, in 1969 it was redesigned in communist style. Luckily, in 2021 it was reset to its original style. If you've been around this channel, and given that we're talking about Austro-Hungarian era architecture, you know what's coming next.
2 to the 1 to the 3. I like good pussy and I like good trees. Smoke so much weed you wouldn't believe, and I get more ass than a toilet seat.
Hermann Helmer and Ferdinand Fellner were an iconic architect duo specializing in theaters and concert halls, designing over 200 opera houses across Central Europe. The Varaždin Theatre was the very first theatre project that the goat himself, Helmer, built. Afterwards, he met his good buddy Fellner, and the sky was the limit for their work. Helmer also met his wife during the construction of the Varaždin Theatre, and they frequently visited the city later on. The theatre features an interesting neo-Renaissance facade with subtle decorations, gardens, and on the south side it showcases more elaborate details, including balconets, statues on pedestals, and panels of carved pelicans in shallow arches. It's not as extravagant as their later projects, but it definitely shows Helmer's early potential to become the greatest architect in Europe. Villa Bedekovich was the residence of the aforementioned Dr. Wilhelm Müller, the German doctor who moved to Varaždin in the 1820s, served as the town's physician for 40 years, and contributed a lot to the city's urban development. The villa was built in 1874, but there's not much information about it online. All I can say is the camera does not do justice to how beautiful this building is in real life. I was walking around in the courtyard with my brain going, holy moly. Nowadays, it is mostly used as a concert hall. The Church of St. George is a tiny Serbian Orthodox church dedicated to St. George, the Christian martyr whose name is tied to an iconic legend about slaying a dragon. Orthodox churches in Croatia are not that common since the country is majorly Catholic, but there was a wave of Orthodox and Protestant church construction in the mid-19th century when the restrictions on non-Catholic religions were removed. The church is itty-bitty because the city has a small minority of Serbian Orthodox peeps. However, two of those people were influential military officers who received backing from Emperor Franz Joseph I to establish an Orthodox church in the city. The building features a unique interpretation of Neo-Byzantine styles with Neo-Romanesque elements. The original train station was built in 1886, but it quickly became inadequate for the traffic of around 300 passengers daily, which prompted calls for a new building. Instead of constructing a new station, the existing one was expanded on each side with the addition of a covered platform and improved waiting rooms. Although I like the building itself, I have some beef with the Croatian railways. Getting to Varaždin from Zagreb by train was hell. At first, everything was alright, but after we switched trains at Zabok, we were traveling at a speed slower than a snail on a Sunday stroll. And you might think, in all fairness, it was winter, it was national holiday, and maybe that caused some issues, but no. I have a friend who frequently takes the train between Zagreb and Varaždin at all times of the year, and according to that person, it's always like this. Jesus, Croatians, fix your trains. The Varaždin post office is your classic 19th century Austro-Hungarian building looking just like you would expect from that era. The original post office in the city was way too small to keep up with the growing mail traffic, so they decided to build a new one that's much bigger. The building was the final masterpiece of a talented local builder, Julie Willer. A not so fun fact about him is that he passed away just 48 days after the post office opened. So while the new post office is definitely an upgrade, it also serves as a reminder of Willard's last contribution to the city. Now, I was trying to find more information about it, but when I googled it, the first article I found was talking about how the Croatian post system had collapsed, closing post offices in Varaždin as well. That's right, folks. Welcome to the Balkans. There's also the building of the Administrative Department for the Communal System and Urban Planning and the Administrative Department for Finance, Budget and Public Procurement in the city of Varaždin. Yes, that's the entire name of the building. I couldn't find any information about this building's history online, but I'm guessing it was built in 1842 based on the huge number carved into the facade. The Kolodvorska street is hands down the most beautiful street in the city, connecting the train station with the city center. It's famous for its stunning Art Nouveau villas, each adorned with intricate plant and geometric motifs. The architecture here is a perfect blend of influences from Vienna, Prague, Budapest, and the rest of the gang, reflecting the style that emerged at the turn of the 20th century, right in sync with the industrial era's lifestyle. The street was part of a special zoning area where only villas with gardens were allowed, so no clatter noisy trades permitted in the area. After World War I, the old empire fell and Croatia became part of the Kingdom of Serbs, Croats and Slovenes, which later was renamed to the Kingdom of Yugoslavia. In the 20th century, Varaždin became the industrial center of northwestern Croatia, mainly focusing on textile and silk manufacturing. The foundation of the YASSA sportswear and sports equipment brand played a significant role in the city's economy. Additionally, Varaždin developed a city library, a museum, gallery, reopened its music school, and started a mountaineering society. One of the few significant additions of this era is the statue of Grigori of Nin, a medieval Catholic bishop who introduced the Croatian language in the religious services, and some say he had some beef with the Pope and his close buddies. The statue was crafted by the legendary Croatian sculptor Ivan Meštrović. Now, if you've been following my videos, you probably already know his name. If you haven't watched them yet, seriously, what are you doing with your life? Ah, I guess that explains it. But really, Meštrović also created the stunning Fountain of Life in Zagreb, so he's kind of a big deal. Back to Grigoriev Nin, the statue was put up in 1932. It was originally meant for Split, but ended up being a perfect fit for Varaždin. I do think that there's a more famous version of it in Split though, but I'm not 100% sure.
Yes, there is. And a bunch of freaks think that touching his toes will bring you luck.
Sadly, things turned pretty dark under the influence of the Ustaše, which was a Croatian fascist and ultranationalist organization active between 1929 and 1945. This organization committed a series of terrorist activities and perpetrated the Holocaust and genocide against its different minority groups, slaughtering hundreds of thousands of people. And yes, this is also part of Croatian history that Croatians do not like to talk about. After the war, the city became part of the Socialist Federal Republic of Yugoslavia, and luckily the communists decided not to construct quite as many buildings as they did in other areas. Now, I'm not saying that socialist architecture is bad, I'm just saying that it's fucking ugly. Things got pretty intense during the fall of Yugoslavia and the early days of the Croatian War of Independence in 1991. Croatian forces surrounded the Varaždin Barracks, which was a key Yugoslav army base in northern Croatia, and this event is called the Siege of Varaždin Barracks or Varaždin's Days of Wars, which was a big win for the Croatians since it weakened the Yugoslav army's hold in their lands and helped pave the way for Croatia's eventual independence.
Javljujeme cijelome svijetu suverenu volju hrvatskog naroda I svih građana Republike, da se današnjim danom Republika Hrvatska proglašuje samostalnom I suverenom državom.
Yeah, baby! That's what I've been waiting for. That's what it's all about.
Today, Varaždin is a flourishing city of the independent country Croatia, and it offers an interesting array of museums, exhibitions, concert halls, restaurants, and various cultural events.
But what about the Santa bikers?
Oh, I almost forgot. The Bikers Santa event is a yearly gathering organized by the Croatian motorist club, Baroque, when the participants form a column and ride around, distributing sweets and entertain kids. The event concludes with a visit to the elderly home, where the participants entertain the elderly. Members of the Baroque club have been involved with several Christmas giveaways, for which the local population is pretty fond of them. So yeah, that's all I have about Varaždin today. Although Croatia is a popular tourist destination, the continental side of the country is often overlooked. I'm glad I had the chance to discover this stunning city, even though my daily schedule during these days was pretty rough, starting with getting a burek and a coffee in the morning and then walking 20 kilometers to film every pretty building I can find, then passing out in my B&B in the evening from exhaustion. Still, I had a lot of fun, and if you wanna leave your room and touch some grass in a foreign country, Varaždin is a great location for that. But enough about my opinion. If you made it this far into the video, you are the real MVP. Here are some treats for you. Comment thanks for the true click to confuse the new viewers. If you want to see more content about Central and Eastern Europe, subscribe and check out my other videos. Thanks for tuning in and have a nice day.